Good morning, everybody. Bear with me as we get everybody up and running here.
Dale.
Hey, Coach.
Hello. Bear with us. Those of you who are just joining, we're letting everybody, we got a large group this morning, letting everybody get logged in. All right, Nick, you there?
Yep.
Sounds good. It looks like we got a good group. Everybody's out of the waiting room here. So thank you all for joining us this morning. We are really excited to have Nick Fabbrini, the head coach of University of Illinois, joining us. And I'm going to ask you to be patient today because Mike Bloom is joining us via phone as opposed to driving this bus. So you're going to see my Zoom skills or lack thereof in action today. But Nick has prepared a nice presentation for us. And again, like last week, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions in the chat room. And we'll try and, like last week, we'll try and get to some that are pertain to possibly the topic that he's discussing, or the majority of them will wait till the end. So thanks for joining. And I'm going to turn things over to Nick.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. I figured that we could start. This is actually my first Zoom conference also, so there might be a few kinks to work out, but I appreciate everybody's patience, and I hope everybody's doing well in this crazy time here. I know it's kind of difficult for everybody. So I figured we'd start with a little bit about myself. I grew up in Forest Park. I grew up playing for the Chicago Blues before I played 2 years at Fenwick High School, where we were lucky enough to win 2 state championships. After that, I tried out in the North American League, and this was around 2005 when there were about 10 teams in the USHL and about 12 to 14 in the North American League. And each of those leagues has doubled in size since then. And I got cut from 2 North American League tryouts before ultimately deciding to attend Illinois. I got into the business program, the accounting program in the business school here. You know, it was an easy choice for me to not pursue anything in Tier 3 or even a Division 3 schools, anything like that. You know, getting into a premier accounting school here made it an easy choice for me. And in coming to Illinois, I was fortunate enough, again, to play on some really good teams. We won 2 national championships when I was here. We went 38-0 my senior year, which was a pretty special experience. And really, you know, over the 5, I was here for 4.5 years as a student, and I coached as an assistant coach my 5th year. So all told in the ACHA, I've got about 13 years of experience, both what it was like back when I played and now, which is pretty significantly different actually in a lot of ways, which we'll get to here in a little bit. You know, after playing, I coached at the Chicago Hawks 1 year with Kyle, or Mr. Coach Katurba, Coach Kyle. What do they call you? Coach Kyle. Then I coached back at Fenwick for 2 years.
You ask. I've been called a lot worse, but go ahead.
Haven't we all as coaches? But so I coached at the Hawks for a year with Kyle and with Nick Chelios, and then I coached at Fenwick for 2 years before coming back to Illinois, where I just finished my 8th season. And in that time, we've won 1 CSCHL championship. We've gone to the national tournament 8 times, including 1 run to the national championship game where we ultimately lost to Adrian back in 2018. And I've been fortunate enough to be selected to go coach as a member of the World University Games, which is a team that's funded by USA Hockey. They take the best American citizens from the ACHA at the Division I level, and we go play in Europe. So for as long as I've been here, both as a player and a coach, it's pretty much all been overseas. It's been in countries like China, Spain, Italy. The 2 that I was fortunate enough to go to were in Russia and Kazakhstan. The upcoming one that is scheduled for this January is supposed to be in Switzerland. We haven't announced a coaching staff for that event yet, but I'm really hoping to be able to go. But that's an opportunity for guys, you know, who haven't been necessarily the top players at their age group to be able to represent their country. And it's something that's, you know, really unique and really special about playing at the ACHA Division I level here. So that being said, I think we'll get into sort of the structure of college hockey now. In case you don't know, there's 151 total men's NCAA Division I and Division III hockey teams. There's 60 at the Division I level, and there's 91 at the Division III level. And that number's grown by 8 or 10 in the last 4 or 5 years as smaller schools look to use sports and hockey to drive enrollment. So that in the ACHA, there's a lot of schools in the ACHA that do that also, and really have been pretty successful, especially at our level, in doing that. So I think now, Kyle, would be a good time to put up the ACHA website. So the ACHAhockey.org is a great website for anybody who's thinking about potentially playing after college. One, it's a great resource to see which schools actually have teams. So most schools have their own dedicated websites that are pretty easy to find now. I know most of you guys are more tech savvy than me and can probably find each of these individual team websites. But ACHAhockey.org is a great place to, one, find news about the ACHA, and 2, like I said, do a little bit of research about teams. There's coaches' contact information. There's a lot of teams in the ACHA have student boards since they're student organizations, so you might have student contact information in there. But there are resources for students. Can you go up, Kyle, to the D1, men's D1 tab, or men's D1, D2, D3, those, and yeah, divisions, there's all that there. So contact info, there's all of that there where you can go through and find information about different schools in different divisions. So with that being said, I think in talking about NCAA in contrast, where there's 151 teams total, men's Division III has 122 teams registered for this last year. Men's Division II had 182, and at the Division I level, we had 71. So that's 300 and I did the math somewhere. 385 teams, I think, at total at the men's level. And there are multiple. A lot of schools have multiple teams. So here at Illinois, we have an ACHA Division I team and an ACHA Division II team. And that's not unique. There's some schools that have even more than that. I think Illinois State just added a third team this year. I think they have a Division I, II, and III team over there. So, and schools like Adrian was the #1 team in our league this year, and they are a school of about 2,500 kids. They have 7 hockey teams there. They have men's and women's NCAA, and then they have 5 ACHA teams: men's Division I, II, and III, and women's Division I and II. So, as we'll get into here, the ACHA sort of has the entire spectrum. It's a really broad spectrum in terms of really everything that you can think of. Everything from school support to, and as far as school support goes, in terms of admissions, in terms of tuition grants or scholarships, in terms of hockey fees. It's really unique across really the whole ACHA. Honestly, I can't speak a whole lot about each team's individual situation in Division II and Division III, but I'm sure, just based on the way that things have gone, that and in hearing things at the yearly meetings, that it's not, those issues aren't not issues. Those trying to think of the best word, attributes aren't necessarily unique to Division I level. Like some schools, for example, if you're a hockey player, it doesn't necessarily matter what your grades are, and you're going to be able to get, like at Robert Morris, which I think is going to be Roosevelt University now. I think everybody who plays hockey there gets like a $7,000 grant off tuition, which I think isn't necessarily in the spirit of the ACHA rules. The ACHA rules prohibit hockey scholarships, but as long as schools don't explicitly call it a hockey scholarship, they can sort of give you money for anything that they want. And I know that there's a lot of kids that go to schools with $25,000 or $30,000 price tags in our league that are paying less than $10,000 a year to go there. And some of that is academic based, I'm sure, but a lot of it obviously has to do with being good hockey players. So, and along with that, I actually found out some things. We'll actually talk about that at Division I level here. I don't want to jump ahead. So along with that spectrum comment, that carries over really to everything, not just the involvement with the school, where again, some coaches are full-time employees, some are volunteers. It really varies school to school, not even conference to conference. Within our conference, we have 5 individual schools where there's really 3 or 4 or 5 even individual coaching contractual situations. So, but Division I to Division III, I think that you would be surprised at the overall level of play in the ACHA, and the overall level of organization. In the Division III level, the SEC schools, Georgia, they're getting a 5,000 seat rink built for them. I don't know if you guys saw that. There's an article online. They're getting a taxpayer funded rink down there because one, I think they're going to add a pro team probably, but the University of Georgia club team, they draw 3,000 fans regularly, playing against all the other SEC schools. So it doesn't just need to be at the Division I level for you to have a great college hockey experience in the ACHA. There's a lot of schools that get great fan support, sort of independent of whether or not they're fully supported by the school. So I guess now might be a good time for questions. Anybody have any questions about anything that we've gone over so far? I don't have the chat. I can't see the chat.
You know what? I just realized I might not have the chat up there. Oh, here it is.
No questions so far?
Everybody see that? Just, Gabe, give me a thumbs up if you saw that test come up. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So now we'll talk about really more specifically the Division I level. I've been coaching here now for 8 years back as the head coach, and things have really completely changed from when I played as a player. When I was here as a player, there were 4 or 5 good teams every year, and we were ranked in the top 5 every year that I was here pretty much. And for the most part, when a top 3 or 4 team would play a team ranked outside the top 7 or 8, it would be a 5 or 6 goal difference. Since then, the league has really evolved, and there are a lot of programs that have really taken huge steps forward. And that's really across the country, and that's for a variety of reasons. Some have started up with the full support of the school. How many fans go to the University of Illinois? So some have the full support of the school. Some are like UNLV are really they have great donor support, but a lot of that has been like a grassroots campaign, a lot of hard work by those guys to gather that donor support. Now I think this year was a great example, with the exception of the top 2 programs, Adrian and Liberty, who were far and away, I think, probably the best 2 teams in the country this year. And if you look at those 2 rosters, they are basically, fully international. I was just looking at Adrian's roster earlier today, and I think they have a breakdown of 13 Americans, 13 Canadians, 2 Czechs, and a Swede. Liberty's roster is pretty similar. They have a couple Ukrainians and maybe a Latvian on the team.
So that Nick, jump in here. That brings up a question that I get asked a lot. The roster size. How large a roster do you typically carry?
So I think that varies. For us, we typically roster anywhere from 15 to 16 forwards, 7 or 8 defensemen, and usually 3 goalies.
And then have a dress list or something every week?
Yeah, so we dress 21. So we're able to dress, typically we dress 13 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 2 goalies. We have injuries every year. Really every year that I've been here, we've had injuries, situations where we've been down to the last couple guys on the roster. But I think this year everybody played at least like 3 or 4 or 5 games. There's definitely competition in practice, and that's not unique to Illinois. That's everywhere, I think, at the Division I level for the most part. The rosters are going to be big enough where there's going to be competition in practice every week for spots. And that's really every higher level of hockey beyond high school. That's junior hockey, that's college hockey, that's anywhere. You're really going to be competing for not just a spot in the lineup, but ice time, on a weekly basis. So yeah, I think most teams usually carry, and that's really at all levels of college hockey. Some Division III teams carry a little bit more, but most levels of college hockey, the rosters are anywhere from 24, 25 to 35, on the high end, really high end. So
what kind of movement do you have between your club teams and your teams?
So here at Illinois, we're not necessarily affiliated directly with Division II. It's kind of a funky setup where it's more beneficial for us to be independent organizations. So we rarely move players team to team during the season. It's happened. It happened, probably 3 or 4 times since I've been here. This last year, we graduated 3 or 4 guys that played their first year here as Division II players, and then made the team as sophomores. They came right from midget AA and didn't play any kind of junior hockey. And like our goalie, Jake Barnhart. I don't know if I don't know if Jake was he's a Naperville guy, but he's a Bennett guy, I guess. But
Played for the
Jake
Sabres.
was probably good enough. He played, yeah, Sabres guy, yeah. So he was. Jake was good enough to make our team freshman year, but we had the returning CSCHL MVP and a Division III transfer that were coming in, and I just didn't have. We talked about it at tryouts. Somebody told me I didn't have any ice time for him. It'd be really hard for me to find games for him with those two guys coming. So it was talked that it was better for him to play that year on Division II and be the guy and play every game against older kids and see a lot of shots, at the college level. So that I think was a big part of him coming up the next year. And when our starting goalie, the Division III transfer, got hurt right at the end of the year, Jake stepped in and won 6 or 7 games in a row, got us to the league championship before we lost to Lindenwood 2-1. I think that year of college hockey and playing games and getting experience against older guys really made a big difference for him. And I think that's something that, I'll talk about when we get to the recruiting part of things here.
Sorry to jump in. We can go back
okay.
to.
That's okay. I see a bunch of questions here on the right, and we'll get a lot of them. I think are going to be answered by.
I saw some pop up that once we show the video of the day in the life and stuff like that, they'll see some of that. So
right, I agree. So maybe we can go to the records page and then the computer rankings page here. The records page is on the website, and this, again, I think just want to give everybody an idea of maybe.
Make sure I got the right one before you get into it.
Yeah, this is the one.
It is? Okay.
Looks like it, yeah. So. Yeah,
this one?
So this is the one. So this is on the men's Division I page, and this lists all of the teams in alphabetical order and their records, and obviously provides links to each team's individual page. So again, just a little bit of a resource to see what teams have what schools, have teams at the Division I level. So, and everybody's goals for, goals against, and things. And again, out of the 71 teams at the Division I level, and doing a little bit of research, obviously not contacting every team individually, but I would guess that something like half have some sort of preferred admissions or tuition program in place for hockey players. And typically that is true of smaller schools, of NAIA schools. Typically schools that have NCAA hockey programs aren't so quick to help out ACHA players, but I actually just found out the other day that in talking to a coach or an advisor that like Niagara, for example, they have an NCAA Division I team. They actually had a pretty good year this year in our league. They have a program in place where if you meet certain academic requirements, and I don't know exactly what they are, but you can be eligible for up to 50% off tuition as a club hockey player, which is really, that's outstanding. So typically it's schools, again, that are looking for a way to drive admission, and typically that comes from smaller schools like Adrian College, right at the top of the list here. Like I mentioned earlier, they're a school in Adrian, Michigan, where it's something like a school of 2,500 kids. And like I said, they have 7 hockey teams. So hockey obviously has been a pretty good resource for them there as far as getting kids interested in school. Whereas here at University of Illinois, the school gets pretty much 35,000 applications a year, every year, to admit a class of 9,000, 10,000 kids. Or I guess they admit about 15 or 18, and about 10,000 come every year. So, each school situation is so different. If you're interested in a school at the ACHA Division I level, it's really important that you reach out to the coach really as early as you can to figure out what programs they may have in place for students. And schools are always looking for good students. I mean, that's really across all levels. I mean, the better your grades are, the more options you're going to have academically, and vice versa. So now can we go to the computer rankings here, Kyle? So
Absolutely.
at the division, that would be the left, I think, ACHA D1 rankings. Yeah, perfect. So
You want me to pump it up a little bit
yeah, could you?
more?
So these were the computer rankings from this year, and we get this every week. We didn't have our national tournament this year for obvious reasons. So, here is the final ranking for the year. We ended the year ranked 9th, and we have a computer algorithm, not all too different, I'm sure, from the My Hockey rankings. I don't really understand any of that stuff, but we get it every week with a breakdown of games. And maybe actually, let's go back to the league standings ones really quick. The one right to the right of it, Kyle. I'm sorry.
This one?
No, to the right of the one that we're on right now. Right there. Perfect.
This one?
So these were the league standings. Yeah. So these were the league standings. And this was the weekend. These were the standings before the last weekend of the year. And this kind of breaks down the leagues at the Division I level. We actually ended up sweeping the final weekend and jumped Iowa State into 3rd place to finish the year in 3rd in our league. But the CSCHL, traditionally all 5 teams, up before this year, I think we ended up with all 5 ranked in the top 25. But prior to this year, all 5 teams were perennially top 15 programs. Some of that has changed now again with a lot of fully funded programs joining the league. But at the Division I level, it's pretty much it's a regional league to a certain extent, but it's spread out across the country. National tournament is comprised. We have 20 teams make the national tournament every year. Some leagues qualify for auto bids. You have to have a 6-team minimum. Our league doesn't qualify. We don't have 6 teams since who left most recently? Indiana just moved back down to the Division II level. We really haven't been able to find a team that fits our geographic footprint that would be competitive. So like Illinois State fits our geographic footprint, but I don't think that they're quite ready to compete night in, night out in the CSCHL. It's a little bit of a different level. So can we go back to the computer rankings now, Kyle?
Yep.
The one right to the left. So again, this kind of gives you a pretty good breakdown, and they do it color coded. As you can see, there's a lot of CSCHL teams up near the top. The Eastern States League is another strong one. So Adrian and Liberty are 2 fully funded programs. Again, like if you went to a Liberty game, I don't know if they have great social media stuff. I mean, they play in front of 2,000, 2,500 fans pretty regularly. They have a great arena. I mean, you wouldn't tell the difference between going to a Liberty game and going to an NCAA Division I hockey game. Other programs,
where are they located?
Liberty's in Virginia. It's a Christian school in Virginia. So they're another team with a big international roster, and a lot of the teams really in the every top 4 team in the league, looking at the final rankings here, has an international roster for the most part. Lindenwood has not as many Canadian players this year, I think, as they've had in the past. But they have guys from all over the country. They've had Swedes in the past. They've got a guy from Norway and a guy from the UK on their roster this year. So Minot is a team that a year or 2 ago, I'd have to look at this year, they had a few more Americans, but a year or 2 ago, I think they had all Canadians. I think they had 3 American players on their roster. So Ohio and Dearborn are programs that really get the full support of the school. Their coaches are full-time employees. And I don't know that they get both their coaches deny getting to help with admissions and tuition, but I don't think that that's the case at all. But that is what it is. And then Stony Brook, Arizona, and Illinois. Actually, well, Arizona operates like a function of the school. Actually, there, Chad Berman's their coach. He's an Illinois guy. He was a coach at Robert Morris for a while. But every situation is really different. They're a member of Campus Rec, and they play in a huge, thick 6,000 seat arena. And when they play ASU, the rink is full, and when they play other teams, the rink is definitely significantly less full. So
social distancing can apply to those games, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I've heard, like Oakland. Oakland's a small school up in Michigan. They're down at 26 in the rankings. In talking to their coaches, they went and played them. They share the rink with an AHL team. So if the AHL team decides that they're going to play on Friday and Saturday night, because the AHL, like college, are kind of a bus league, so they play a lot of weekend games. So if they're playing the same time or the same dates as Arizona, like the Arizona played a lot of 2 p.m. Friday games. Which obviously aren't going to be too well attended. Every school, every situation is different. We're really fortunate, Illinois, to have a rink on campus and be the main tenant of that rink. So we get, primary reservations when it comes to everything. Oh, here's a good one. Yeah, sliding down to the computer average here. And this one breaks it down by league. And really, as you can see, it breaks out the CSCHL is the strongest league, and it's kind of always been that way for even going back to when I played here. Teams that have been really good, that were really good at our level, that have gone to the Division I level in the past couple of years. Penn State, was a team that we beat for the national championship my freshman year, and they're one of the best programs in the Big Ten now, in their 6th or 7th year at the Division I level. And Arizona State, they knocked us out of the national tournament my first year and won it my second year here. And they're in their 4th year, and they probably would have made the tournament for the 2nd year in a row, which is just outstanding what they're doing, really playing in a community rink. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen one of their games or been to their rink, but, it's basically like center ice. It's not a nice facility. It's got a $3 million locker room or something like that attached to it, but what they're doing there at that school with the rink they're playing in is really outstanding. But back to the ACHA here. I think as far as recruiting goes, like I mentioned, every school is different. Every school sort of has their own unique situation when it comes to admissions, when it comes to player pool, when it comes to academic, when it comes to majors and things that they offer that way. So, again, going back to kind of that whole spectrum comment, it goes from, guys that are getting into schools that they might not be able to get into normally without hockey to schools like the situation that we have here in Illinois where we don't get any sort of preferential treatment for any situation. Guys have to be able to get in on their own. We can help a little bit with that. We have a faculty advisor who can help spruce up essays and sort of direct you to the best place to apply. But when it comes to preferential treatment with admissions, doesn't matter to them at this point who's a hockey player and who's not. So I think the most important part is for guys that want to play at the Division I level. So we'll get our roster at the end, but our roster in particular, we've always had guys really across all levels. So I came here from Fent. I played with guys that had played 2 years in the USHL before coming to Illinois. There aren't any USHL players coming in the league anymore, but that hasn't really changed as far as where our players come from. So this year, as our freshman class, we had 2 or 3 guys come right from CYA. We had 1 guy come right from Bennett Academy. We had another guy come from an Illinois guy, Hinsdale kid, come from prep school. And then we had 2 or 3 guys come that had played 2 or 3 years of junior hockey. One for a full year in the North American League, 2 years in the NA3, another guy who played 2 years in Canada. So really hit the whole spectrum as far as our roster breakdown. And I think I've been really fortunate in Illinois that we have so many different songs of youth hockey, that and good coaches that really prepare kids to be able to play at this level. And I think as coaches, we understand that there are good players at every level. You don't necessarily need to play for a certain team or a certain coach to necessarily be noticed as a player, prospective college player. So a big part of it, especially if you're not interested in playing junior hockey is a good way of getting prepared to play against older guys, because you really have to. Unless you're starting as a 20-year-old, you're going to have to play against older players, and that's the most important thing, I think, to be a competitive player at the college level is understanding how your game translates to players that are older and stronger and faster and maybe a little bit smarter, more experienced than you are. Like me, for example, when I played at Fenwick, I was on the first line and I was running the first power play and sort of doing everything. And then when I came to Illinois as a freshman, again, we had guys that had spent time in the North American League or in the USHL. And a guy I played with that was my age was on the TI team that won the MAC tournament and lost to Sidney Crosby's team in the national championship 5-4. And Crosby had 5 points. So, played with some really good players here and understood that, my game, I couldn't play the same game that I played at Fenwick. I wasn't going to be able probably to beat defensemen one-on-one. Guys at Penn State, they were D1 transfers playing for Penn State. Guys that had probably seen every move I had and 10 better moves at the clubs I didn't have in my bag, so to speak. So, it's really important, I think, as a player to understand, be honest. It's really important that you're honest. I just heard Dan Greer say the other day on a Hockey Think Tank podcast, which you haven't listened to that. It's a great one to check out. But, you have to really be honest with yourself as a player about what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and be willing to be coached. I think I can't say it enough. Being coachable is really important at this level. And it's not just me. I mean, look at a guy like Dave Boland. And he's a familiar name for a lot of you Chicago guys, but his last year of junior hockey, he had 130 points. I just looked it up. He had 60 goals almost his last year of juniors playing in London. And in the NHL, I don't think he ever had more than 50. I think his high was something right around 45 or 50 playing for the Hawks. He was a second, third line center in the NHL. Made a great career out of it, won 2 Stanley Cups. But I think if you ask him, he figured out pretty early on he wasn't going to be a 60-goal scorer in the NHL. And if he tried to be that, probably wasn't going to be in the NHL for very long. And again, college, really most schools, again, they're going to have an excess of players where you're going to have to figure out ways to compete and contribute if you want to play every night. So now I think would probably be a good time to maybe do the Illini video, Kyle, to give everybody kind of an idea of what it's like to be a player here. I see a lot of questions that I think will be answered by the video on the right. And we can talk a little bit more about the specifics of our program once we get there. So this was a video that a local reporter made, followed our guys around for a week back in January, February. So this was right on the time of the polar vortex. So there's one workout that we had to cancel because of the cold. And there was actually 2 parts to the video, but the second part was just Saturday's game. So we're just going to go over first part here, which really takes you through a full week minus a day when it was minus 50 down here. So if there is no question, I think that will be a good time to play the video, and we'll go to questions after that. So.
Hey Kyle, I don't know if anyone else can hear it, but I'm not getting any sound at all in this video.
Kyle, when you go to share, I think there's a checkbox that says allow sound to come through. You may have to stop sharing and start sharing again. And then you could check that box.
Sorry about that, guys. Thanks for bringing it up to my attention. We're going to do this again. And it sounded great on my end.
I didn't have the best understanding of what club hockey was just until I got down here. I thought it was kind of like, hey, like guys come out here and just kind of screw around a little bit, but I didn't know how serious it was until I really got down to school here and kind of got invested into the Atlanta hockey.
It's about 3 to 4 hours every day, not including games. Mondays are a little different because we only have bikes, so it's only about an hour. But Tuesday through Thursday, we have hour-and-a-half long practices, but you show up a half hour early. You don't leave for a half hour after, or if we have video, it just adds more time.
Yeah, we're a club sport, but everyone looks at us like we're the only team here, so like we're the team that everyone looks for.
Let's focus on how you're going to get fitter, how you're going to get stronger in the next 45 minutes. Right now, big reps into the
I've been doing this since the start of last year, and it's a great way to help build conditioning off the ice. There's a pretty direct correlation between cycling and skating and muscle groups and active recovery and things like that. So, it's really paid big benefits for us on the ice. I think last year with making a run to the national championship game, and this year I think we've seen some benefits from it as well. Today was pretty grueling. Yeah, today was a tough one. So we're all feeling it today.
Being able to find the time throughout the day and like schedule your day in order, like around hockey, in order to be able to, 1, get all your schoolwork done, 2, be able to practice, and 3, be able to study. It's a very compact schedule that like hockey is a very structural thing in our lives that like we really have to plan everything, like our classes, our homework, and everything else around in order for us to be able to like give a conscious effort on the ice, you know.
We're ready to go tomorrow, folks. Get some rest tonight. I know it's still going to be cold. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your bodies. We got to find a way to get it done tomorrow, fellas, and Saturday night. All right?
So this is one of the 2 apartments that our team has here at 212 East Green Street. Bruce is our 5th roommate, the dog over here. This place is kind of the place where everybody comes to hang out. We're always hanging out in here, doing homework in here, watching hockey games or sporting events on TV, watching movies. Friday nights after the games, we'll have everyone over, kind of unwind after the game, talk about it, see what we can do. Sometimes we'll watch film of the game, figure out how to get better for the next day, or if sometimes you just don't want to think about hockey for a little bit and just hang out with everybody away from the rink.
It's just kind of our setup. We've got some old jerseys. 3 of them were ones they wore, and then the Fighting Illini one is actually one that my uncle wore when he played here. So it's a pretty incredible experience to spend my last 4 years playing hockey in the rink that I grew up watching my uncle coach. I grew up playing in, and it's been a pretty big part of my life. And So it's been an unforgettable experience to be probably one of the last few club programs to go through this building.
I would say I knew probably about a quarter of the guys coming in. I played with I think like 4 or 5 guys growing up. Both of my roommates, we played together when we were probably 7 years old. That's me right there. There's Turk, and then Mosky's right over there.
See you later, Bruce.
My thing is, let's make sure that we're being hungry in front of the net, fellas, and getting to the front. Don't be satisfied with being on the perimeter. And we've talked a lot lately, guys, about what we need to do. You guys know how we need to play. At the end of the day, when you boil it all down, winners are basically guys who are willing to do what losers aren't. Empty the tank today, fellas. Don't leave any questions out here in your head. All right? We need it tonight. We got to find a way. I believe in you boys. Trust in the process. Must have fun tonight, huh? Let's go get it, fellas. Let's go.
We're just heading right across the street to the Armory. On Fridays, we're able to use the indoor track just to kind of warm up, stretch out before the game. And then on Saturdays, usually the track is off limits, so we'll just use the hallway to run up and down and do our static and dynamic stretching.
Make them play a full 60 minutes at our pace here. They can't do it, fellas. They can't do it. Let's be all over these guys right off the bat. As you said, we know how we need to play. A lot of you guys know what it takes to be successful in this league. We got to find it right off the bat here. All right, Ernie, you guys are starting. Tyler and Turkey on the back end. And Gerthy and net. Let's go, fellas. Let's have some fun tonight, boys.
You're knocking on the door. You're looking good.
To jam off a guy and get back to the front of the net. You okay? Hey, win the third period, we win the hockey game here. Our rink, let's go.
Let's do it. Let's go.
guys are going to have a minute to win it here also. Great job, fellas. Way to come back and get it done there, guys. Great job. Would have been real easy after giving up 2 in the first 5 or 6 minutes there. Again, chalk it up as not being our night. But that's not what happened. Guys dug deep and popped 2 in the last 5, including one with 40 seconds left.
Good team win. 2 big goals. Let the kid eat.
We get like a month off from December to January, give or take. So 3, 4, sometimes 5 weeks, I guess, depends on the way the schedule breaks down. But our fees are typically anywhere from, like this year it's like $2,200. I definitely spend a lot of time out on the road recruiting. It's kind of difficult without any type of financial incentives to offer. And with how competitive the university is from an academic standpoint, it can be difficult to identify players that can help us on the ice that also have the grades to get into school, since we don't get any help with admissions.
It's really tough getting to bed early. I mean, just kind of because everyone's still going from the game.
Yeah, you're usually pretty wired from the game. It takes a little bit to kind of cool down, but
Especially scoring 2 goals in the last 3 minutes.
yeah, a couple minutes.
I mean, it definitely is something that you're going to be wired. I'm going to be wired all the way into tomorrow morning, so just something kind of keeps you going.
You did it last night. Good teams find a way to do it back to back. Let's take it 1 shift at a time, win a period at a time here, and let's have some fun in our rink tonight, boys. Our house.
It's always fun playing a team like that, honestly. Really gets everybody in the game, gets everybody on the bench fired up when there's some big hits and some scuffles and stuff like that. Yeah, it's tough physically, but that's why we play hockey. We know what we're signing up for. All right. So, I think that was a pretty good illustration. Everybody hear me?
I can hear you. Can everybody else?
All right. So I think that was a pretty good illustration, like I said, of what it's kind of like to go through a week here. We're on the ice 5 or 6 days a week. Sundays are typically the only day that we don't have ice. Our fees, as far as can you maybe go to our website now, Kyle?
Yep.
Our fees are anywhere from, this year they were anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000.
Hey, sorry, Nick, is it a link you sent me, or is it something else?
It might just be at the website itself, so IlliniHockey.com. I don't know if I sent you the actual link to the website.
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead with what you're doing, and I'll get it up there.
So our fees are anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000. And again, that varies school to school. Illinois, that's what we charge this year. And our guys have the opportunity to offset all of it by fundraising. We have an ad contract. We can sell board ads. You can sell website ads, jersey ads, program ads, all kinds of things. And typically the guys that go out and do it are able to get a little bit of their funds or their fees paid off, if not all. You know, there's some guys here didn't pay any money in 4 years just because they went out and sold ads to local businesses, some businesses back home, just went out and did the work. But our fees cover, like I said, 6 days of ice. CCM, we're in our 4th year of a contract with CCM where we provide pants, helmets, and gloves, provide Nike warm-ups, Nike travel stuff, I guess, CCM workout gear, shorts, long sleeve top, short sleeve top, guys typically pay a little bit extra to get like a team shoe from Nike that we get through the same supplier that supplies all the D1 athletes here. So, here at Illinois, we really do everything that we can as best we can, provide as close to a Division I experience for our guys as we can. We bus pretty much everywhere we go. Next year we're going to play in Vegas. We're going to Vegas to play UNLV, so we'll have to fly out there. But all of that is included in your fees. Bus, the flights will be included next year. Hotels, we don't cover meals on the road, or any equipment besides pants, helmet, and gloves and the warm-up stuff. But the guys, we get a deal. We get I want to say it's 25 or 30% off of CCM's whole catalog, basically, under the program that we're with now. And our guys get to their team stick for like $110 or something like that. So not free, but really not a bad deal at all here. Maybe we can go to our roster now, Kyle. Show those guys where that is, or what that kind of looks like. So our roster typically, and this has really been as long as I've been here. It's pretty much been, it's pretty much all been a Illinois-based team. Chicago, largely from Chicago. Every year, we've always had a few Central Illinois guys since the youth hockey program, really in Peoria, is so strong. I think this year we had something like maybe not six. Anywhere 4 to 6 guys that you really have to think about it and look at it when we see the actual roster here that came from the Central Illinois area. And then this year we had 2 guys from out of state. Going back to when I played here, there was never more than 2 or 3 guys usually from out of state. And that's really, I think, in part because of how expensive out of state tuition is. Typically the guys that come here from out of state come because they either want to study business or engineering. And obviously we're 2 really strong. We have 2 really strong programs in that. We had one guy that I played with here whose family owns like 70,000 acres of farmland up in Minnesota, who came here for the ag program. And then everybody else kind of comes for engineering. So both the guys that we have from out of state this year are both engineering majors and came here for the engineering program. So there it is. Perfect. So this is a breakdown here of our team from this year. And again, you can kind of see where they come from. You can see their previous team on the far right. And this year on our team, I'd say roughly half the guys came from some kind of junior hockey and half came straight to school. Traditionally, we have, especially in the CSCHL, we have more non-junior hockey players than pretty much every other school. And I think, again, a lot of that has to do with the admissions part of things. A lot of guys, unfortunately for us, a lot of guys that have the grades to get in here as students are typically getting pretty attractive financial offers from, other schools, whether it's ACHA or NCAA, Division III especially. We don't compete with Division I schools for players, but Division III especially, I think, can really keep the cost down for guys. It's difficult for us to compete with that, especially now with how expensive college has become, sort of. But yeah, as you can see, we sort of have the whole spectrum as far as where we get our players from. And we're a little unique in that way. So I think that if you look at most top programs in Division I, a lot of those guys are coming from junior hockey, but not all. And that's really unique school to school, I think. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that I have as far as information goes. There's a lot of questions. on the record.
That's first of all, thank you very much. I think it's and we'll get to the questions in just a second, but I think what's important is a lot of times the school of thought used to be, I want to play hockey in college, so let me look for a school that has a hockey team. And now it's like you can pick a school and the majority of them have hockey teams now. It might be Division II or Division III, whatever it is, club. But it's amazing to me when I look at this and look at the website after, even a year or two, how many new teams have been added. I mean, it's just, it's great to see. There's so many opportunities for all these players. But Nick, thank you very much for your time. Let's get to some of the questions. See, hopefully everybody can hear. How many fans go to the University of Illinois D1 games?
So it depends. Typically, like second semester this year, I think pretty much every game we had over 1,000 people. First semester, it really varies. Dad's weekend, it's typically like the first weekend in November, and we'll have 1,500 to 2,000 in the building those nights. Other nights, early in the fall, when there's high school football on Fridays, which is a big deal down in Central Illinois, and Big Ten with Illinois football on Saturdays, it can be difficult in the fall for sure. So once it's hockey season, though, the building we have a pretty devoted fan base, guys. Again, and a lot of our volunteers, a lot of the fans have been coming to games since I played here. So that's something that's really cool about being a hockey player down here.
Great. Do your players train like for the off season? Do they train with the school, or do they train individually? Or are they on their own?
They're on their own. So most of our guys go home. Are at home. A lot of them are working all summer, whether it's summer jobs or internships, especially as they get older. Like our upperclassmen are pretty much always doing internships in the summer. So a lot of our guys, more now than when I played here for sure. A lot of them are guys that are in the gym all the time on their own. They're waking up early to go to the gym. They're really doing a good job of taking care of their bodies. And I think now, especially now in Chicago, I think there's more options available for guys looking to skate, college kids, guys looking to skate over the summer than ever before. When I was growing up, you could either play men's league or go to center ice for rad hockey at like 11 p.m. and hope there'd be a good skate, hope kids would show up. Now all the different skills coaches and guys putting skates together, it's not hard to find ways to stay in shape over the summer in Chicago.
And we're going to be spraying to all fields here. It's not going to be, we're going to go topic to topic. So how far is travel for away games typically? I saw that for conference, it looked like you had teams that weren't too far away, but you also mentioned UNLV. So on average, what's your typical schedule look like?
So we play home and home with everybody in our conference. So like Ohio University, Athens, far side, pretty close to West Virginia. It's on the far side of Ohio. But they have actually a great setup. I love going to Ohio. Iowa State, about 7 hours, 6-7 hours north in Ames. Lindenwood's in St. Louis, and Robert Morris is in Chicago. So
how are you traveling to the games, Nick? How do you travel to the games?
We bus. So we'll bus everywhere but Chicago. When we play games in Chicago, our guys, we don't bus. Our guys drive. They stay at home. It saves us a ton of money, and it's a lot more comfortable. And guys from out of town typically are able to find somewhere to crash. When I was a player, I had a guy from St. Louis stay with me.
You allowed that?
Oh, yeah. No, not as a coach, when I was playing.
No, I'm kidding. Nick, I was joking that you'd let somebody from St. Louis stay with you.
I
think
no. Experience what winning was like for the St. Louis guys. So.
Ryan, I think we answered your question what a typical day in the life of a club hockey player is like. But I mean, to kind of dig a little deeper, when guys are figuring out their class schedules and everything, do you have an advisor that they go to? Do they have their own advisor, or do you have like a hockey advisor that kind of helps them? And it's going to lead into another question about professors and how lenient they are if they have to miss classes on Friday. Like, do you help the student or the student athlete kind of figure out their schedule so it doesn't conflict with practices or travel? And
So yes and no. So we have a faculty advisor that helps our guys with issues like classes, whether it's getting into a certain section or getting into maybe a different lecture based on what time practice is. So it really depends on the individual student. As far as professors making accommodations go, yeah, we have our faculty advisor writes an absence letter that has our travel schedule on it by semester, and players get it really early on in the semester and are encouraged to give it to their professors right away. Typically, especially in first semester, we don't miss more than a Friday at a time. For nationals, there's a chance where we might be gone for an extended period of time, but professors, I've proctored exams on the road. Our faculty advisor has proctored exams. Kids have taken conflict exams. For the most part, we've never had an issue when it comes to teachers making accommodations so long as they're provided advance notice, which our faculty advisor does. Our guys do not get preferred admission to certain classes. We don't get to register D1 athletes do. We don't get any extra help through the student athlete services, although I'm working on that. I don't know, I'm not super hopeful that that's going to change, but and yeah, been the same time pretty much since I played here, I want to say. So for the most part, guys know when practice is. That being said, especially as you get older, there are some classes that are only offered, at one time, once for one semester at one time, and it's a required class for your major. You can do in that instance if it's the middle of practice. So obviously, nobody can be a professional hockey player. So there's some guys where if unfortunately something happens or on a Tuesday and Thursday where practice will be, their class will be 3:30 to 5 or something like that, where they'll get on the ice for maybe 20 minutes each of those days. But there's not a lot that we can do in those types of situations. But those are pretty limited to upperclassmen typically.
Okay. I didn't see this name on the roster, but it says, Coach, I think you have a former Jets player on your team, Jack Stender.
Division II team this year.
Okay.
Jack played for the D2 team this year.
Nice. We covered that one. How many players typically try out for your D1 team?
Usually right around 40, give or take. Really depends. But typically it's somewhere between 35 and 40-ish.
Okay.
Sort of varies year to year.
All right. The video's lagging. Yeah, sorry about that. If the video didn't go as well as it should have, I can always send everybody an email with the actual video.
Yeah, the video's flowing. It's actually it's really a great video.
Okay.
Did a great job.
If a player wants to get noticed, what's the most effective way to get your attention? How do you recruit players to your program? Do you get value of the recruiting services such as NCSA?
So I think the best way is to fill stuff out through our website. I've used NCSA a little bit. It really helped us get probably our best player, Casper Riba. I probably don't use it as much as I should, to be honest. A recruiting standpoint, we don't have a lot of time between my assistant coach and I, who is married with 2 kids. We don't really have another full-time job. We don't really have a ton of time to get out into rinks to watch games, especially being where we're located here in Central Illinois. It's a lot easier for us to watch junior hockey games than it is to watch, anything in Chicago, really, with Springfield and Peoria are both about an hour and a half drive from here, and Springfield's got a North American League team. Peoria's got an NA3 team, and they play a lot of Sunday games. So from a getting out to watch game standpoint, it's kind of difficult for us to do. But we have players come out and skate with us on a yearly basis. If you're interested in the school and interested in being a player here, I would definitely recommend reaching out ahead of time, and you can kind of get a feel for what it's like to go through, at the very minimum, a practice, and see what it's like.
All right. So it's possible where a player comes to your tryout and you've never seen them play or anything. They're just coming out. Or do you, those 40 that are trying out for your team, is it like almost an invitation where you've seen them play and, some guys you just move on to the D2 team or what?
So it's a little bit of both. So there's guys every year. It's an open tryout. So they have something down here called Quad Day, where every organization can, every student organization, which is what we're officially registered as under the university, they can go out and provide information about their organization, and that's from we provide, we hand out schedule cards and posters, and pass out tryout information to anybody that may not be super familiar with the team. But for the most part, I've got a pretty good idea of who's going to be at tryouts every year. That's not always true. Really, going back to when I played here, it's pretty much always been at least one guy that comes to tryouts that makes the team that nobody knew was going to be there beforehand. So, yeah, I think that again, it's kind of a whole deal, a spectrum there as far as that goes.
Sounds good. I think this is more of a personal question. Do you know Tom Raja, who played at Illinois from 92 to 96? Yeah,
I've met Tom a few times at alumni stuff. He's a really good guy. I think he played with Chad. Chad's the guy that I played for here. I think that's right around the time Chad was a player here. So I think they're really good friends, actually.
Most of your players graduate in 4 years.
Yes. Yeah. The vast majority of them are done in 4 years. Some take summer school, but really that's, again, going back for the 13 years that I've been here, most of our guys graduate in 4 years, with the exception of maybe a major change here or there. But yeah, most of our guys are getting out in 4 years.
What about academic eligibility? Is there a certain GPA or maintain?
For at the Division I level, I'm not sure. I think it's the same across all ACHA divisions, but at our level, you need to be registered for 12 credit hours. You need to pass 24 credit hours in a calendar year, and you have to have a 2.0 minimum GPA, and you have to pay, I think it's a minimum of 9 per semester and 24 for the year. So obviously, if you're a full-time student, 24 is a minimum that you're going to need to pass, with 12 credit hours being a full-time student. Most of our guys take, a minimum of 14 or 15. Some take up to 18 and are able to balance it. So
Is the D2 program similar in terms of time commitment, practice, and schedule?
So no. So right now, they have 2 practices a week. We just have 1 sheet of ice that really serves the entire Champaign community, whether it's it's our team, the Division II team, all the youth organization down here, public skate, synchronized skating, all the university learn to skate programs. Like it's all 1 sheet. There's probably 15 to 20 different groups, and the rink is rented from like 6 a.m. to midnight pretty much every day. So unfortunately, they get a little bit of a short end of the stick. They practice at like 10 p.m. on Tuesday nights, or 9:30-ish, 9:30, 10 o'clock on Tuesday and Thursdays. They have workouts. Their coach now, so their team has changed a little bit. They just recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, hired a full-time coach. Before that, they were pretty much all student run. And that's, again, sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier as far as the ACHA and structure, organizational structure goes. But their coach this last couple of years, I think he's really trying to step that whole team up, and they added 2 days a week of off-ice workouts, and they made the MACA playoffs for the first time, and we're close to making regionals for the first time in a while. So, that team is getting a little bit more serious here also. So,
okay. Do you have relationships with coaches in the Chicago area to help potential players get to your program?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I played for or with, or played against when I was a player that are still coaching in Chicago now. So, I think that whether it's at the high school level or really all levels, high school, the AA level, the AAA level, I've got relationships sort of across the board, and guys that, help, especially if they know that guys are interested in Illinois, that helps steer guys my way. So that's something that's definitely been helpful in that regard.
You even got old guys who have been around for a while who actually coached when you were a player and coached against you. I don't know.
There's a guy that I actually scored a game-winning goal in the state semifinal against on the call.
It was 2-1, and I'll tell you what, if we score on that breakaway, oh my gosh. We gave you a better game in the semifinal, losing 2-1 to you than the championship game. I think you beat Loyola like 5-0 in the championship game.
Yeah, no, that was a great game. But
who remembers that, right?
Yeah, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, this isn't what this call's about. So I think we covered all the questions. I'm looking through it. So, okay, we'll just kind of role play real quick. If I'm a senior in high school and I want to, I've gone through everything. I shouldn't say settled, but I got into Illinois. Now I want to play hockey. What's my next step? Reaching out to you, sending you some game film. What do you recommend?
So I would reach out to me. Obviously now is a little bit different. Like typically now is the time when we really have a lot of guys come down and visit. Guys that so we were planning on having a prospect camp in the first weekend of May here, which springtime down here is it's like heaven on earth. It's one of the best places to be, I think, anywhere. But unfortunately, obviously had to cancel that. So definitely reach out to me. There's contact information on our website. There's contact information on the ACHA website. I typically come home for the summer. This year, or typically down here, they melt the ice. They take the ice out like the second or third week of May and put it back in August. They're not going to do that this year. I've heard they're going to leave the ice in. I don't know if or when the rink is going to reopen. But I typically spend a lot of my summers in Chicago anyway. And I'm definitely planning on having some ice so I can keep people posted on that for sure. But a lot of that will be on the Illini Hockey website too as summer goes along here.
Sounds great. Well, I think, like I said, we covered all the questions. I really appreciate your time, Nick. I think this was great. It, as you can see by the number of participants and all the questions, people were really excited to have you, meet with us today and go over your program, but really club hockey, the ACHA overall. And I just think it was really well done on your part, and we really appreciate it. So thanks for your time. If anybody ever wants to get in touch or reach out to Nick, I have his contact information, and he's a great resource to have. He can help answer some questions you might have further and about club hockey and how to get there to where you want to go. But Nick, again, thanks for your time. Everybody on the call, thanks for your time. Stay safe, and Nick, good luck this upcoming season whenever we get on the ice.
Yeah, you too. Thanks everybody for joining us here, and thanks for having me on, Kyle. This was a lot of fun.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. See you guys soon.